Sagittarius gone wild. That's the subject. That's the subject matter of this video, and I want to tell a couple stories about Sagittarius. And I'll start with that. I'll start with one of my Sagittarius stories. And this is the first time I started. Well, it isn't the first time. It's the first time I really started to experience it and know what it is. And this was before I got into astrology, or it might have been right around that time where I was breaking away from Christianity, or at least understanding what Christianity really was, or what religions really were, all at the same time. It all kind of goes together with understanding astrology and learning astrology. So I was on a date. It was one of the first times I started using dating apps successfully, because I think before this I really had a hard time meeting people, getting dates, etc. And then all of a sudden it started to work, where I started to figure out how to make it work. And sure enough, this person was from Virginia. It was about she was about 2 hours from where I lived, which is a whole nother story about dating apps. But yeah, she was from Virginia, and she was visiting. She was visiting here to go to a church, to go to one of these mega churches. It was called the Life Center. And so I get this date. I go on this date with her, and the date was, she drives up here from Virginia, and the date was at this little cafe right near this church. And I start the date. I start getting to know her, etc. And it was like one of those experiences where you're on a date, not just a date, but like you have a meeting with someone. You think you're meeting someone to get to know them, etc. Then you find out you realize you're being pitched. You're being pitched for something. And this might have been, I don't know if she came to the date with this in mind, or if it was one of my astrology moves where you realize that you don't really like the person, so then you start playing around with astrology. I don't know. But she started talking about this church, and she started talking about Christianity and how much she's found her calling, etc. And she was super enthusiastic, very like jolly, very happy, super excited. And she was telling me this story that she worked for some corporation, which I'll get into as well. She worked for some corporation. She was liberating herself from the corporate world into this new life, where she could do whatever she wanted, etc., etc. So then it gets into, well, why don't you come to my church? Why don't you come to my church? It was either, I think it was like that night. Yeah, it was that night. So I'm like, okay, I'll come check this out. And so I go, and this church, and what reminded me of this, I just drove past it. There's this church, mega church. It's got its own, this one's kind of hidden. It's amazing. It's got its own amazing, massive property with its own parking garage. And inside this church, there's auditoriums. I think there's more than one auditorium. I mean, it's massive. And I think there's a school there and everything. So I go into this place, and it's in the auditorium, and there's a speaker down there. I don't know if he's a pastor or just a speaker. And there's a screen on the wall, big movie screen, and there's these guys skydiving. I don't know what they're called, base jumpers. That's really what it was. It was base jumping, and he's showing this video about these base jumpers and how these base jumpers are truly living their life, and it's so over the top exciting. And he's down there, rah rah rah, and I'm looking for this girl. I'm like, where is she? And she's down there. She's in the front row. So I'm like, I'm not going down there. So I hang out in the back row, and I'm just kind of minding my business. And then they try to get you involved, and they talk about hugging. This is where they really lost me. They start talking about hugging each other, and this guy who I was not attracted to at all, even as a person, just starts hugging me. And at that point I left. But anyway, what I really wanted to make a point in this video is that this is Sagittarius gone wild. That's what this is. And these people don't realize it because they think it's something else. And I like that energy. I'm not, it's really what it is. It's energy. And that's what this girl was really doing. She was attracted to this, freedom. Freedom is associated with Sagittarius, travel, this jolliness, happiness, optimism, this crazy optimism. And, she wanted to get away from the corporate world, which is also partially a form of Sagittarius, which I'm going to get into here, and move into, the complete Sagittarian world. Of course, I'd say corporate world has a little bit to do with Saturn as well, obviously. There's a lot of work that these people do, but you think of the corporate world, and it reminds me of, the reason why it reminds me of Sagittarius, because when you get into these big corporations, which you almost call them mega churches, there is no negativity allowed. It's like once they make it big, there's no Gemini allowed. That's what people mean when they say no negativity. That's really usually what they mean. No talking or speaking of reality at all. No criticizing, no logical thinking, because people in these spaces don't, at that point, especially the people that work there, not so much the people that are behind the scenes, but the people that are a part of this dream, or that are hired to find themselves there. There's no need to have these conversations, to have this talk, because that's not the life that they're living. Maybe behind the scenes it was maybe different, but yeah, these people that exist in these corporations, this no negativity, anyone that talks like that, for the most part, they want to live in this Sagittarius gone wild life. And the thing is, they can get away with it. A lot of them can get away with it for the most part until they can't. But they find themselves in situations in life where they can get away from it. Like I said, the person that has the corporate job, that's getting paid probably more than they should, that doesn't really do any work. They're just, living this dream life, can be super optimistic about life, etc., compared to somebody else. So then it reminds me of, a little side note, it also reminds me of someone else that I knew that, she's got Mars and Gemini. She's kind of like this because she has some Sagittarius, but she's got Mars and Gemini, and she keeps running into these Gemini people. And I got news for her. If she thinks that this is gonna stop, she's dreaming, because she's got Mars and Gemini in the 7th house. She's gonna continuously meet up to people, and this is the difference between the people that can get away with this and the people that can't. She's gonna continue to meet up with these people that throw her into reality, Gemini, that make her live in reality, that make her live in a more logical world, which isn't a bad thing. That's actually a good thing for her, even though she would see it as a bad thing and call it negative. You're being negative. And that's essentially in that situation, that's a losing battle. It's really a losing battle for everyone in the long term. There needs to be a blend of Sagittarius and Gemini, the left brain and the right brain. And it's interesting that where that church was, in that area, there's more mega churches in that area. There's hotels everywhere. And if you think of, just driving around that area, and if you drive around, you can just drive around your area as well. There's hotels everywhere. And you got to wonder, who's going to these hotels? How are they staying in business? And I know there's other reasons why they could be in business. It's not just that they're so full all the time. They have so many customers, but just seeing this area, that it's the churches and the hotels, the Sagittarius travel. And it also goes to show you that if you want to live in a Sagittarius reality where they're traveling all the time, or being around people who are super over the top optimistic, you can do it in theory. In theory, it exists. In practice, as I spoke of the one person that, and this is where we get into the reality of individual realities, where the people might ask, well, why do I keep running into this? And even though I don't want to, etc. So there's that. And it reminds me of the Pope. I just did the reading of the Pope. The Catholics, the Catholics have this too. The Pope is like at the Vatican is like the mega church, and you see the Pope come out at Vatican, I don't know, what is it called, Vatican Square or St. Peter's Square, and there's people everywhere cheering and yelling, living in this great state of optimism, as if all of a sudden we're going to live in this Sagittarius reality where there's no negativity, there's no counterpart, there's no logic, there's no counting and work. It's all in the heavens. I mean, it's just it's never going to happen. So, we see the Catholics are doing this too in some ways. I mean, the Catholic Church is the giant mega church, and the Pope is Mr. Sagittarius, always will be. You could go through, I bet if I went through and checked all the popes in the last 10 popes, there's massive Sagittarius elements in their chart. There could be some balance, but there's still always going to be a lot of Sagittarius compared to, say, someone who wouldn't be in that position. And this, we can talk about this with all the signs. Sagittarius going wild, Gemini going wild, extremes. And I do think that to some degree, people can go through phases where they have, like, let's say a year. You see this a lot. This is where people get sold. Because selling is a big Sagittarius thing too. But this is where people get misled and sold. Where, oh, I want to travel the world. I see so-and-so traveling the world. And they're living this lifestyle, etc. But oftentimes what they're seeing is 1 year of their life or 2 years of their life. It's a small sample of their life, and we start to think that it's actually more prevalent than it is. Now, it might be very prevalent in individual lives, meaning we're seeing lots of individual people go through a year of their life or a phase of their life, and that even from the religious standpoint, with if I go to the mega church 1 year, I see a bunch of familiar faces, or even just church in general. And then years later, I go back and all the familiar faces are gone. And then years later, I might come back and they're back again. So it's really hard to really see this for what it is, because looking at it as a whole, it looks like this is something that is very popular. But what it is people going through just phases of their life that might draw you to having that experience for 1 or 2 years of your life. And for many people, again, if it's not for you and you are being sold in the wrong direction, you can have some rough experiences during those years. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you have the most fantastic experience ever, and then you're back to reality years later. But I think I pick out Sagittarius to do these videos a lot more than other signs, because I do have that tendency to lean towards Sagittarius and lean towards these extremes when it comes to the different signs and different energies. So hope you enjoy this, and thanks for watching.